Hey, what's going on, everybody? Just gonna hop on, do a little bit of a impromptu stream, just walk through some of my levels, share with you what I look at when it comes to Asia from a chart perspective, from a habit perspective, and ultimately how I use this time to set up for a better trading day the following day. So let's go ahead and pull up some charts and we'll take a look at what we got going on here. We'll start out pretty simply. I will look at whatever platforms I'm going to be trading on. And if I'm going to be using, let's just say Project X for Top Step or for Top One Futures, any of the brokers or prop firms that allow that, I'm going to do this one very simple things every time I start up the charts. So I'll go in here and I will look at my risk settings. So I'll see that I have an auto bracket on here set at 500, 500. My daily loss limit set at 1,000, number of trades set at 5, and I'll go through and I will hit lockout settings for the day. So now I'm good to trade freely without having to worry about going over or just adjusting the numbers. Anyone who trades for any amount of time will tell you that, it just takes one day to kind of set yourself pretty far back. So by setting these guardrails, you will really set yourself up ahead and also apart from the rest. So we can hop over, let's see. Again, Top One Futures, we'll do the same thing, right? $1,000, 5 trades, 500, boom, boom, boom. Lockout risk settings for the day. Now we are good to go when it comes to trading. And we'll go ahead and do some levels as well, so we have a good idea of what we're going to be looking at. We'll start over here on NQ. So just to kind of bring everyone up to speed who's watching so far, we will go and see where we at, right? This is our agenda. Risk settings, levels, watch the open, and then I'll go over any potential trade ideas that I'm seeing. It doesn't mean that we have to take a trade. If there's something, we'll absolutely take it. I'll share with you the whole logic behind my Model 123. But if there's nothing there, we can just simply sit back and enjoy the time on the charts. So progressing through here, we're going to go through some levels first and foremost, make this real nice and easy to see. So we did have a pretty interesting session today. This is something I like to do at the end of every day, typically around this time, is I like to look at what price had done during the day. And we can see past midnight open, we dipped. We were able to run out those lows that were on the hourly from ES. But from there, we really, we saw the rally, and then we had this big jackknife down move, followed by the steep recovery. So it tells me that dips are just being bought. We can zoom out a little bit to like an hourly chart. As you can see right here, we have those lows that I was talking about getting ran. And then you can see that we're really just hugging the bottom of that range and reacting bullishly to that. So whenever you see consistent instances of dips being bought, dips on a gap down being bought, it tells me that we're likely to see, at least some sort of upside continuation. So that would be my premise going into the day. Now, assuming if we gap or not, we could gap in either direction, and that can really put a damper or create some sort of context for a trade during this Asia session. So again, the game plan for today is let's go over some levels. We're going to create basically some structure on where we're able to trade from. This is the agenda. Again, risk settings get locked in first and foremost. From there, we go ahead and look at what we're doing on the charts. So I like to start with the daily. We have a pretty good idea of what's been happening on the lower time frame just based on that last observation on the charts. But as you can see right here, we've reacted to the bottom side of this consolidation. We initially did react to this upside right here. However, it didn't seem to have any sort of follow through based on this trading in the last session. So my objectives, I'm going to potentially just look for upside to the end of the week. So if we could trade, if this is going to be our external manipulation, our reversal right here, we can potentially look to trade one day and then Friday as well higher. So I'm thinking that we finish the week on a bullish close, and we could see what that would look like right here on the weekly chart. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to. We do have a bit of an outside week right here, but I do think we have a decent shot at running higher based on that manipulation to the downside today. So we're going to get into here. We're going to chop up some levels. One thing I do want to point out is the fact that this Monday low is higher than the Wednesday low for ES. But if you compare that to NQ, you'll notice it's the opposite. So we have a bit of an SMT, a divergence, if you will, as well as that. So you have, not only do you have these two lows where that one's lower, you have this one where both of these are higher. So we're seeing that there's a bullish divergence for NQ. ES has had the willingness to dig down deeper. It's been more willing to go and reach for those downside lows. Hey, Anto, how you doing? How you doing? You going to be trading Asia in a second? We'll chop up some levels right now. But yeah, thanks for stopping by, man. So again, levels to the upside, that's my main idea for what I'm going to be looking for. At some points, 63.43, and then potentially this 23,000 triple twos on NQ. I'm going to lean into NQ, especially for the overnight session if I do plan to trade. Trading's much cleaner. But yeah, when it comes to building a context for a trade plan, let's go ahead and just take a look at like the 30-minute. We know what we've done on the daily. We know where we're at on the weekly as well. We kind of talked about that. We're at all-time highs and all that good stuff as well, as you can see right here. But if we just go from the 30-minute chart, you can get a lot of info. So my main reservation is really going to be how we open. If we do open down in this area, it's kind of messy, right? Like anything can really happen. So I want to see us at least kind of open in this little consolidation at the end of the day, like above that. Yeah, awesome, man. Yeah, thankfully we got a couple minutes. We'll see if we get some volatility. The market's been super, super crazy these last couple sessions. I've liked the New York session. Just today, it was just a little bit choppy for a ton of people. I got stopped out just because I had moved my stop early, but yeah, we'll see how this goes. I'm excited to see how we open up. I like to think that when New York is a little bit more choppy, Asia gets a little bit easier. That's something I've noticed. But again, I want to see if we're able to trade essentially up into this area right here. How close to this 63.20 can we get for that? And then for NQ, it's real simple. We have this one fair value gap / inverse. Go ahead and notate this. It's right on the inverse. So yeah, essentially I'd want to see us hold above maybe today's 930 open and then trade back towards the 132. So 23,132 is going to be my primary level for the upside that I'd want to see traded to. I like to have pretty simple structure, basic ideas when I'm looking to trade Asia. We've seen a lot of strength in crypto, to say the least, so I will actually be mentioning that right now. Given the fact that NQ is correlated with, Bitcoin and things of that nature, ETH is just ripping. It's massive move higher today. I mean, 7% just today. Solana is doing well as well. Bitcoin's up. So I do think these things are going to positively influence NASDAQ. As you can see, Bitcoin. Yeah, we're almost at 20,000 again for Bitcoin. So Ethereum's having its day, then Solana, the third and final is also up 6%. So with these developments in the charts, I'm thinking that, that will influence asset prices for the index to go higher. So I'll be watching upside. Really want to see us tag 132. If we could build some sort of opening range break right here, that'd be nice. But let's get into the charts. Up over here, we'll look at the Top Step account first. Be focusing on micro NQ today. See, I like to normally have like a 1 minute, maybe a 15-minute, and I like to keep it pretty simple. So hopefully this loads. Hopefully it doesn't give me any issues. 15 seconds. Let's get this one as well. So we got a little bit of a gap up on here. I do want to give it time to develop, but one of the things I like to see when we do gap up is like this gap test go kind of action. So we have the opening price, slight gap up. If we dip down, sometimes you could get a really good entry here to then target higher. That's sometimes a trade that works really well in a lower time frame. I look at the NQ versus micro NQ. Micro NQ has a gap. Regular NQ does not have too much of a gap, so I'd be a little bit wary. But essentially the idea would be if we gap higher, dip down to the bottom of the gap, sometimes you could scoop this and then trade it back through that opening price. I'm going to be a little more patient today. I don't think I need to do that just yet. We'll look at the micro time frames while we're talking about this, just because it gives a good visual, but I'm not too convinced just yet. If it was a bit more of a pronounced gap and cleaner structure, I'd be more over it, like all over it. But as it stands right now, I do want to give it some time. But again, that would be the premise is you gap up, touch the bottom side of the gap, and then you get that little bit of a gap test go. That's the type of trade. That's at least how I describe that trade. So you see how it's basing out a little bit on that 15-second chart. It's not too convincing of an area for me just yet, so I will give it some time. But yeah, there are many instances where I've taken the trade right here. But I will let it work because I don't trust it enough to go just up just yet. So yeah, we're getting that little bit of a bleed. Prior close. Yeah, I don't have extremely clean price action just yet. It's just 3 candles so far. Okay, we get a little bit of a bleed. So main idea, whenever I'm coming into Asia, this is like a universal rule for me. I'm always looking for something nearby for it to react to, whether it's going to be these lows or this high or this fair value gap. Normally, you can see some sort of reaction at an area where you might want to get involved or even fade the reaction. So I'm always looking at like what's nearby. You know, do we have a low right here on the 5-minute? We have a lot of little things that it could come touch. And it's not that any of them matter all that much. It's just that this is such a thin market, and you know, there's a million different scripts that different funds run that will just do little things that create reactions at levels, whether that's someone trading the opening price rejection, whatever it is. Like it can all be programmed. So that creates these little like flips and you know, just little static at areas. That's what I'm looking for. If I can see something like that that aligns with the strategy that I like to enter on, then I can take it. But for now, big candles don't mean anything. Range is still relatively tiny. It's 15 points right here. Yeah, none of the other markets are too interesting. Gold's still kind of ranging on the daily. Copper's consolidating a little bit after its recent rally. Crude's kind of flat. Silver looks okay on the daily, but I think we're best just to kind of look at the index right now. So again, opening 5 minutes for Asia. I mean, unless you're gapping into a real hot area, you could just take it chill. So our game plan today, again, just lock up the risk settings. That's the first thing I do whenever I open the platform, regardless if I trade. You know, I'll open it up, lock it out tonight so that in the morning I don't have to think about it. And it's just like wearing a seatbelt. Like you don't need it, but it will help you. Especially when you do need it, that one random instance. So yeah, that's where we're at right now. Crazy volatile session. It's really hard to say if this is news driven. You know, I wasn't at the charts when that happened, but it's very likely that those things are related. So on another screen, I'm gonna take a slight glance at what we got scheduled for tomorrow. So tomorrow we do have core retail sales and unemployment at 8:30 Eastern, manufacturing index, and then Waller's speaking after the bell tomorrow. Then Friday's consumer sentiment. So we have some news. We have some news there. Nothing too crazy, but yeah, that's the idea. If Asia is going to be volatile, typically that means that the news following the next day is going to be a little bit lighter. So there could be some decent moves tonight, as well as the fact that today was kind of sideways. A lot of it, I would say. I would expect Asia to potentially give a little bit of a run somewhere. So we'll break this down a little bit of a lower time frame so you guys can get an idea of what I'm looking at. if we're starting to approach these lows, it's either going to round over and continue, or it's going to find a way to hold. I don't know if this is necessarily a level I want to trade, but it is a level that like I would consider, because it is some equal lows right here for us to then trade back to the opening price or the prior close. That's like a decent trade right there. We're talking 55 to 63, 20 micros, you could get a pretty good move there. Maybe trade to 65. The flip to it would be seen if we're willing to sort of like consolidate here, showing inability to make higher highs and higher lows, then you look to trade to the downside. And that's just technical scalping in a nutshell. I'm going to personally wait for something with a little more meat on the bones than just 10 points. I want to see something with like maybe 20 to 30 points, and then I'll be willing to get involved. But this is a good study of price. We're starting to see something happen here, and whatever happens here really does influence our hand. Go ahead and pull up the 15, see if I could get a clean level. See, that's something I don't like. I'm going to say it's this right here. That's our level. So now I'm going to use this inversion gap right here to start to see if we're like going to roll over here. Yeah, this is a upper quarter mark. Try to make this a little cleaner for you guys. Current interval only. So this could get interesting. We did gap up slightly. We are starting to sell off into these local lows. And we're also, it's hard to say, but I think we're above this inversion right here again. And we might start to see it reject back to the downside, down to these lower edges of it. So it is a tricky thing to kind of point out, but I do think that might be the scenario we're looking at. And I'm going to go ahead and actually remove some more of these lows. So anything in blue is going to be on these lower time frames. I'm just taking it off, like the 15, for example. So when we go back to the 15, we should have nothing. Yeah. So see, we're starting to see a rejection here. This is potentially a trade I like. I don't think I'm going to take it, but I'll let you know. Potentially to the bottom side of this gap, so down to 33s, if we would trade this to the downside. I'm going to put my upside interest in a thick blue line, and then my downside target is in a thick red line. So that's kind of the range I'm playing with. I'm going to delete the wicks off this chart just to make it a little clearer. But that's what I'm looking at. So we see a rejection to the quarter mark of this fair value gap right here. I'm going to make this a little darker. Here, oh no. But yeah, I'm starting to see it form these consecutive lower highs. So it does feel weak. However, I'm not sold on it because this can easily overshoot and then reclaim. So as it continues to kind of develop inside this 15-minute zone, our main question is still going to be whether or not this is trying to hold as a low, or if it's simply going to be a breakdown of structure where we could trade down to this 33 area. If not, I will look for the higher low to form, that breaker, and then look to trade through the session highs. If Asia trades like a box, you have to think in terms of that. Where are we likely to set a low? Where are we likely to set a high? And how can I use that information to trade back towards the other end of the range? You don't need it all. You can just catch maybe 15 points if you're looking for the long, and then you can go from there. But that is always going to be my underlying view of how this market's going to move. When markets are thin, sometimes the action could be misleading, or maybe you start to see a big push, maybe you get a wick, right? And then it goes the other way, as you're seeing it happen literally right after I say it. But it's just something that's it's ingrained in how I see price. I've studied this market a lot, where sometimes these bigger moves can get faked out, and sometimes it can surprise you. Like we're seeing it dig way deeper than I initially thought. But it doesn't mean that on a minute chart it doesn't end up being a wick. So you always have to keep that in mind. We're starting to see some volatility come in, so I'm going to start to be more alert for opportunity moving forward from this point. But look at this. This is actually a pretty good study right here, guys. Whether or not you use these types of concepts, I find great value in them. We pretty much tested that to like the penny. I don't know if you guys see that quarter mark of this fair value gap right here. We tested like almost exactly. So things like that are pretty common. We rejected this one to the quarter, then went to the bottom quarter. So a lot of like robotic characteristics in price. That's how I see it. So we stab lower. We're starting to reject that area. I did believe we could potentially see it kind of bounce here, but I'm not too sold. Try to clean up these charts a little bit. Take a look at what ES is doing on another screen. 5 minute. Yeah, ES, little trend lower. Okay. Below 33, we have 16. Those are the two targets in mind if we do look for downside. So we'll keep an eye on that. It's kind of our structure so far, the 30-second. I'm going to go ahead and throw a couple things on there for us. Let's go ahead and take a look at what VWAP's doing right now. VWAP's still pretty elevated. I mean, I get it's the 30-second chart, but look at the 15. Yeah, so price is a little disconnected from VWAP. It did drag on that push, which is good. You want to see VWAP following price. Like you want to see it trailing real tight to price if the volume is sufficient in Asia. If it stays pretty flat, this means that it would be a low volume move. However, when you see these big gaps down, that means there's a big change, which means that it's getting dragged down a little. However, it's not like pulling harshly. Like you see in the beginning, it's pulling real harsh. So I like the level here. We're going to drop to the 5 minute on the other chart. Just remember, we're in this 15-minute inversion. There's levels for us to bounce off of. I'm going to be considering that as a possibility because we could look to get long in this area. We can put a stop down here and we could target up here, prior close. From 50 to 63, we could take that trade. The 5 minute is 30 seconds left on it and we'll be closing. So I'm going to kind of wait to see what we're doing on the 5 minute right here. Yeah, this 5 minute chart. I would like to see how this closes before I consider potentially taking this counter trend trade for the session. See what we look like on the 15 on another chart. Let's pull this, keep this on a 5. I could probably do 10 contracts. I think should be fine. Not the strongest close in the world, but not the end of the world. Yeah, I'm tempted to get long here. We'll try it. We'll try a long. We're not going to do this risk reward or whatever. We're going to target something closer. I'm going to do a target like that, like 230s. No, I'm sorry. Let's do 210. Probably tighten the stop too. I don't know where I want the stop. Maybe in the wick. It could easily hit me out. But I do think something like this would be okay. We see that VWAP's around this 55 area. Go ahead, drop this to a 1 minute on the other chart. Yeah, it's close enough to the prior close. If we're getting a 15-minute rotation at some point, that could work. I might move the stop to just an even 1-to-1 just to kind of demonstrate how I like to look at these sessions, because even if I think my invalidation's here, I could still get wicked and get rocked out of the trade. We're reacting to VWAP, which is, I mean, expected, but I do want to see this immediately follow through. So I think once we're trading above 56, I might trail in profit, but we'll see. I do think a 1-to-1 would be really good here. I think it'd be a good opportunity to, display good habits, but we'll see what the market has to give. I'm okay with the $200 loss here. I might make it, let's see, we'll call it 190, right? Just to even out the commissions. So 210, even 200, 190, even 200. Yeah, that VWAP projection is pretty clean so far. I don't like the 1 minute close. So we do have the option to exit the trade early if it does start to really, invalidate itself or demonstrate characteristics that are uncommon in winning trades. Like, yeah, these little gaps down, not my favorite, but I think it's still okay. We saw a nice pop, rejected at a really, really, really tough location, but it's hard to take profit at this point, It's really hard to take profit at 5 points. Yeah, this might be coming to stop me, so we'll see. Yeah, I mean, if I was in a little bit better of an entry, I probably could have got it off, but it was a real hard 15-second candle, So if this stops me, I'm okay with that. Again, daily stop set 1,000. We have 5 bullets total. We don't have to use them though. That's for today and tomorrow, for New York tomorrow. So we'll watch this, give it time to work, because again, Asia can do its thing where it wicks you out. But also, if it just rejects here, that's bearish structure if it continues. So you never get too heartbroken over one trade. Realistically, it does make sense for it to go higher, but I don't like these last 2 1 minute candles. That it changed a lot. Yeah, TP almost hit at 55. Yeah, 55 was a good exit, man. 55 was a good exit. That's good. I probably could have managed it a little better, maybe done half off. But yeah, it just happened quick, honestly. It just happened real quick. So we're hoping that this is going to be the higher low right here. I think it could still run. I don't think our target's aggressive. This is some, easy liquidity resting. If you think about the downtrend that's occurred today, we have some easy orders potentially resting there from anyone short. That's someone's trail. And Asia loves to do this thing where it goes to a low a day and then just boom, just gets rid of everybody's trade. So yeah, now we just give it a little bit of time. That's the whole reason for the 1-to-1 in a session like this, because there's so much volatility that it can just come knock you out of a trade and still work. So I'd rather just size a little more proportionate and be okay with the $200 loss than to try to maximize profits and minimize downside. Just, I'm trading a directional bias. I believe that Asia more often than not will tend to range. So in the scenario like this, I'm betting on it kind of reversing to the top of the range. That's the thesis there. It's a pretty strong bet if you ask me in most scenarios. But markets are not predictable. There's a lot of randomness. We're predictable though. That's something I read today. We are very predictable. My actions are predictable. If I get in a tilt-like mood, I know I'm going to make mistakes. But if I just follow the basic steps and take less trades, it never really happens. That's that second test of VWAP. I'm not loving the wicks, but again, it's a 15-second chart, so I'm not going to be overly critical just yet. We'll go to the 30 seconds, see what we're looking at right here. I do like that we're holding the lows, but I'm not too convinced. So again, let's get above 55, and I might reduce the stop to half, just below this new swing low right here. I think that'd be acceptable. Something like that, right? 110. So we'll leave it for now. Let's just get a push above these swing highs, so we'll have that market structure shift. We're now creating this inversion on the 30-second chart. And we just really want to see how we're going to close here and potentially trade to the upside. So it's looking good. It's at VWAP. I should just move it right here just to be, just it created more structure. Typically with Asia, if it gives you more structure to tighten your risk, go for it. That's what I like to do because it's proving my thesis. So if it starts to fail after proving it, I mean, it's hard to believe in the trade much more. I don't expect it to make a lower low and then go to my target. I expect it to create some sort of higher low and go. So this is where it gets tricky though, because you can easily get wicked out of stuff. I would like it above 55 before I feel real confident committing to the stop right here, but I'm still going to just stick to this. Yeah, do I trail? I trail. I like to when it makes sense. I really do. So we're starting to get this little bit of a higher low right here. Ideally, we just trade to the upside. We'll knock out this 200 bucks, hopefully real quick. Let's see, above 56, we could get close to break even on it, I think. Let's see it trade above 56. So let's create a line right here. Yeah, hard to see. When it goes above 56, we'll trail it. Open, high, low, close. Open, high, low, close. So if 1 minute looks really good, yeah, look at this 1 minute right here. This looks really good to me. And then let's see what the 5 minute looks like. The 5 minute looks really good to me too. I think it looks good. It's just, it could just fail, that's the hard part about this. So we got the 15-second again. Because if it fails here, it's just rejecting VWAP, guys, and that's like perfect trading. Like that can happen anytime. This is a counter trend trade, which means I'm going to trade it a little less aggressively. I'm not going to size super heavy for it, but a 1-to-1 with 200 bucks, it seems more than reasonable if we can get that sustained push. We just need that higher low and then one leg up, and then we have the trade. Good question. How many monitors? So I have right now what you're seeing, this is my MacBook that I'm on, but I have an external monitor. It's just one 49-inch. So it's like basically two screens in one. One of them has like the stream. So I really just have one extra chart and then this. But yeah, good question. I like having tabs and stuff. So I'll swap between them. But yeah, I used to think you need a ton of charts. I'm mostly just trading off of this right here. We broke down all the charts, the higher time frame at the beginning of stream, and I just kind of remember the numbers. I don't necessarily need to see it all that often. But we'll see. This is kind of digging a little deep. This is what I mean by trailing could be a little tricky. It could stop me out, and I think I'm okay if I get stopped out here at 110. I can't really move it tighter, and I could leave it the same spot, but I feel like the structure is proven that it should hold as a higher low right here. 3 minis. Yeah, let's get it. Let's go, Lawrence. Yeah, we're out here nibbling. Just nibbling on some reversals in Asia. Some basic stuff. Yep. 15-second. Well, I mean, realistically, I could be talking about this on the 1 minute, but when I'm talking about like higher lows forming, I think it's easier for people to see on the smaller time frame. It's not necessarily that I need the 15-second, but when we're looking at like how price tends to reverse in Asia, kind of create this box right here, the 15-second really gives you that open, high, low close. Asia is extremely quiet for sure. Asia is a super quiet session. There are periods where you can have like a lot of volatility and a lot of clean moves, but it's a thinner market, so that's why I will prefer to trade NQ, specifically micro NQ in Asia, because there's just more transactions that happen in this contract. If you try to trade ES, it'll be very, very, very spotty. If you try to trade NQ, the regular contract, there's still a lot of gaps. But yeah, notice even this 30-second, you're seeing this higher low right here. We just need that second market structure shift and then that push above these highs, and then we have the trade. If not, my invalidation point feels fine right here. Yeah, that's pretty much all you can do. It's tough if you look at the 5 minute because we are reacting to some downside areas, but if it doesn't want to, curl up higher, I can't do anything about it. The idea is that we form this little wick right here at the bottom and kind of reverse the top. But, you do what you can with what you got. Do I trade live? Yeah, it's rejecting VWAP a bunch. I tend to, I trade New York. I just haven't been streaming it too much lately. I'm gonna get back into the habit of it. And then yeah, VWAP, that's been our biggest issue right here. This dotted line is our VWAP, and this whole time we've been talking about it because we were in right here. It rejected, unfortunately. Had to stop down here just because I knew that it could potentially dig and form a higher low. And then now it's kind of stalling out in the same area. So it's a tough one. It is counter trend, which is why I want to be just 10 micros versus like 20 or 25 because I have to fight VWAP, which I don't want to ever do really. But yeah, to answer your question again, I do trade New York live. I've just been trading New York a lot on my phone. I'll just take one trade. It's like I don't even go to my office in the morning, so it's like I haven't been just in the habit of streaming it. But we'll get back to it. So we'll see. It's either going to just reject here and I'm okay with this stop, or we can get that little bit of a higher low. It's kind of bull flagging, but that only goes so far for you. Yeah, I'm not loving the trade at this point. There's just too many candles. It's too much time. I feel like the longer it starts to stall in an area, it'll quickly go to the stop. So this is a moment where I would start to consider, do I actually want to hold this trade? Or do I want to just kind of save the bullet? Especially, yeah, when you start to see this, look, this top wick right here. When I start to see it push and make a big body and then form a top wick, I'm always mindful of that. A little bit of a delay right there, I guess. Yeah, like a little bit of gap down right here. At this point, it's been long enough. We go on the 1 minute. The 1 minute looks terrible. You see, starting to round over at the top. These are now lower highs. Sweeps that high. So now that my stop should be close if it wants to kind of go down. So I'm going to expect the stop to get ran in a second. That's what my bias is leaning towards at this moment. Yeah, especially when you get those gaps between the candles. I don't love seeing gaps because they normally will just flip and kind of go. But, we'll let it work. Hey, great. Yeah, great comment. Great comment. Tick chart is a super, super good one. Yeah, tick chart is super good for Asia. 100 tick works great. Yeah, tick chart's super key. Right now, you'll probably see, I think it's evident with just the lack of volume. Yeah, there's not too much going on right here. You can see the structure though, higher lows right here on this. It's just this level, that VWAP. It's real, real tricky right now. Yeah, every little push just gets kind of sold into, which is making it tricky. But yeah, I'm not in a spot where I want to move my stop, and I can't trail it tighter just because this would be the invalidation if we're building on my thesis. So we'll just let it run it. Because yeah, at this point, it's like if they were getting like a series of candles to the downside, why do I want to still be in it? And then Renko is probably just completely flat. Yeah, nothing. So we have 30 seconds till the next 30-minute candle opens. That could be a little bit of a saving grace sometimes. Whenever you get the rotation between the 15, the 30, and the 60-minute candles in Asia, it can tend to do you a favor. But it seems right now, yeah, we're getting close to my stop. It just needs to run it. See, there's that downside move. The difference between here and here is literally just like one candle. So we took one stop for 112 bucks. We'll watch it. Here's that little bit of a downside expansion. Yeah, as we were rejecting VWAP, I was kind of expecting this to be the more likely scenario for us to then look to potentially trade into the bottom side of this 15-minute gap. But yeah, that's kind of how you do it in Asia. Asia, sometimes you might take an early loss like that and then you'll easily get it back. But yeah, as it stands, I'm not loving the structure right here. But these are the levels I was kind of keen off of. We had this big push up in the morning, sold off, and then we kind of worked our way back through it. And now we're back in this area. So, Still holding that same quarter mark that we noted earlier right there. So it'd be funny if this is a scenario where moving the stop wasn't ideal. You just leave it there. But yeah, right here, I don't really have context to work with. I think biggest thing that I can share with you guys is if you do decide to trade Asia, I just have a ritual for it. Every single day when I sit down, I immediately go to settings. I will lock out my risk settings, whether I'm using my Top Step account or if I'm using my Project X Top One Futures account. I will simply just go to the risk settings and I'll lock out the stats. So that way I can't change my max loss limit. I can't change anything. It's a very effective way for any sort of Project X prop firm account you have, whether that's any of them. There's a handful at this point. Yeah, as you can see, down $100. I'm okay with it. I don't really love anything at this area, I don't think. We had to really think about what we did. So we came down, we rejected this earlier low from the 5-minute, rejected VWAP, we're holding below VWAP. You're saying they're denying payouts. I hear some stuff, but when you like look at how people get denied from any prop firm, it's because they broke rules. Like I've had EPIX payouts, and I've had ones that get denied, and it's normally something in the script, like you just didn't read. A lot of times, I know people will ignore rules or act like they don't matter or whatever, but like that's really the only time that a prop firm can do that, you know. Because you'll see the amount that they pay out. Like even I think it's just like this week or last week is like 500 grand. They've already passed 10 million in payouts, so I don't think they deny a lot of people. Like, I don't think that's a habit, but people get denied from every prop firm. I've had insurance claims for like events I go to get denied because I don't have a good reason for not going to the event. And I bought the insurance and they're like, nope, it's in the text. And it's like, well, that sucks. So everything's a business. But did I see YouTube? No, honestly, I don't watch YouTube like that. I don't really do anything. I just I'm out of my garden and stuff. All right, so we're starting to see another lower high right here. I mean, maybe interested in the short, but like down to where? I don't know. Let's see. Kind of like the idea of a short. Maybe down to 16. All right, let's go for it. I don't think we need all that stop, but we'll have some stop. I mean, look, you could be right. I'm just speaking in general. I don't know the situation. Like you could be absolutely right. 100%. Stuff happens all the time. So like that could be a thing. I'd say there's probably a lot of gray area with everything. And not even speaking to the situation. It's like there's also you ever know like the way you ask about something? Like you might need like someone to do you a favor or whatever. Normally the way you go about stuff can affect that. Whether you're right or wrong. That's just like a principle I've learned in life. But yeah, I mean he might have a legitimate claim. I don't know. I just feel like personally, I know if because you're saying like YouTube or whatever, I feel like you have better luck with settling things if you do it like with whoever it is instead of being like, look what they did, because then it's like now it's like a headache and like why would they want to do you a solid if you're creating a headache for them? But who knows? Maybe people are getting ignored. So it's like, I don't know. I'm just speaking in general. But here's the idea now. I think maybe we're seeing a bit of a breakdown of structure. Little break and retest. I'm using this as like an order block in my mind. It's hard to say though. I don't like this 5-minute close right here. So we might be 0 for 2 real quick. Yeah, see? Don't love that 5-minute close. Let's see what the 1 minute looks like right here. Could be tricky. It could just be building a base at that same area that we were looking at earlier. I'm just thinking lower highs, and then a little bit of an expansion. Not even this, just like call it that. But yeah, I'd say this is probably the last thing I'm looking at. Invalidation above this swing point. Maybe just make it like directly above it. So VWAP projection, I'm looking for the lower high continuation. Just loosely kind of trading this range. Not my favorite structure, but for the sake of kind of walking through what I think, we'll do it. What's good, man? How you doing? It's good. You guys get into any trouble in Asia? It's a good time just to kind of take a look at charts. You know, for me in California, it's like what 3:30 right now. Yeah, 3:30. It's nice. So this is an easy session. It's better when it has some volatility, though. I'll say that. But yeah, I like to use my Express account for these because I'll trade micros for NQ or whatever. But my top one account, I like to trade ES on there and just go for more of like a 10 points. Just stack the $500 days. Yeah, nice. Yeah, it has some nice little range in it. I mean, it's small. Don't get me wrong. We had a trade that was up a little bit, and then it just wouldn't continue. We wanted one more leg higher, but now we'll look for the breakdown. Try to finish off on a positive note or whatever. Okay, a little bit of a push. See what the tick chart's looking like. Okay, we're starting to see some continuation. A little bit on the 15-second. Price is fractal, guys. Don't think the 15-second is the end all be all. It's just breaking the 1 minute candle into 4 points, so you can see lower highs easier. It's the same thing we use it from the 5 minute to the 1 minute for. Don't love it. I don't love it sweeping like that. I want to see a close lower. See what this tick chart looks like. But yeah, if you guys enjoy this type of stream, super laid back, super chill, leave a like. If you have any sort of recommendations for things you want to see. Today we went over levels that I had in mind at the beginning of stream, showed you my lockout process. If you want to see journaling streams, I could do that as well. Show you kind of the lazy way to document your trades. I could do that. I don't think we didn't get into trading to be, accountants or anything like that. Secretaries. We got into trading just to make money. So there's efficient ways to do that type of stuff. Just leave a like, leave a comment. Let me know. Let me know what you're thinking. Yeah, consistent downtrend, but it's pretty flat. If you look at the tick chart, the 30-second chart, it is a consistent downtrend. However, there's not a lot of velocity, not a lot of range just yet. So ideally, we see just one little push. I set the target at 340. Realistically, I'm going for like 1-to-1. It's kind of what I'm looking at. But I don't want, like, if I make this $190 day, I'd rather just have a little extra target so that it ends up being a $200 day. So that way it's easier to stack the 30. Because I don't have to do anything after if this trade does work. Tick chart's a great tool in Asia. You use Renko and stuff like that. Renko helps kind of determine what your trend's looking like. So it is bearish. I mean, by many different accounts, it's bearish. It's just, is there enough juice for it to go lower? All these lower highs right here really kind of sealing the deal for me. You have your little wedge, if you will, tightening at the bottom of the wedge just to roll over. That's at least what I see in my head. So I hear a lot of people have been getting chopped up in these markets. And one of the things that I've started to realize just over the last couple of months is we're traders, we're not employed. We don't have to show up to whatever given day. So if it's not like super clear, you don't even have to you don't have to trade it. You don't have to trade the session. I used to think that if I couldn't understand what price was saying, that I just didn't know enough. And it's like that's not the case. After, first couple of months, you know enough. We just think that there's more to learn. And we stay in that perpetual loop of learning when it's like we could just sit out, you know. It's like if this thing doesn't work right here, I don't need to try to find something else. I can just go do something else with my day. But yeah, last thing you want to do is just burn good capital on bad sessions. I'd say today was a little bit tricky for a lot of people. Do I trade forex? I don't think I've ever traded a pair. No, I traded euro a couple times. I think traded euro dollar a couple times, but that's about it. No, I mostly trade futures. I trade options. I trade a lot of different stock portfolios and things of that nature. So I'm heavily involved in equities, crypto as well. I'll trade, manage different stuff for that as well. So yeah, mostly my bread and butter's futures, specifically index. That's just where I learned. I started with options, still trade options. But currencies are a different beast. There's some pretty good macro trades in there from time to time. Like the yen trade over the last couple of years has been a good one. But other than that, currencies are super efficient. They have a function. People trading currency, it's for like merchant stuff. It's from a bank perspective. It's not necessarily a highly speculative asset. Stocks have a lot more edge because they're less efficient. I buy Palantir 3 months ago and it goes up 100%. I buy Robinhood 3 months ago, it goes up 100%. Currencies don't do that, not without the availability of leverage. So ideally, you'd want to see a bit of a breakaway at this point, but I mean, the fact that we're drifting lower, I'm okay with. It could be a slow trade, guys. It could be a slow trade. That's fine. I don't think we're asking for a lot, really. I would like to see a heavier close on one of these 5 minutes instead of all these dojis, Just a bit like down to these bodies, really. That's all we're asking for. Good question. Good question. So you just started trading. What is my strategy? I can put into a couple words. I'll try to keep it simple. I like to use some of the frameworks from ICT or Smart Money Concepts, but that's not like what I trade. I'm good at reading price action and kind of reacting discretionarily. So that's kind of my approach. I like a few real key indicators like VWAP. I think there's a statistical edge in VWAP, but my main edge or strategy or just method, it really does come from the higher time frame alignment. Like I talk to a lot of traders that don't even read like a daily chart, for instance. If I could trade the daily chart by itself, like I will, and if I can't, I drop to a lower time frame and then look for some sort of opportunity there. So it's a blend. You'll learn a lot of things. I've learned a lot about moving averages, learned a lot about different oscillators, all of them. TTM squeeze, Bollinger Bands, all this good stuff. But it doesn't stick. Some stuff resonates with you. For me, it's hard for me to have like a ton of lines and colors on my chart. I can't see it very well. So I like very simple stuff. But as far as like today goes, this is pretty much the framework I'm looking at. I've been looking at this zone on the 15-minute, and the way that we barely closed above it, like right here, I thought we would potentially start to drift down through the bottom side of it, down to here. So that's the idea. I'm looking for the continuation based on this price action pattern of these lower highs. And that market structure leads me to believe that we could trade lower. And that's kind of the approach for today. So just a couple words on it. It's a blend of things, you know. When it comes to other markets, like or my long-term portfolio, I'll use moving averages, like genuinely. I'll buy a 200-day moving average if it makes sense. But also like news really matters. So some of the best long-term positions entries I've had were during April when everybody was losing their mind. I bought a lot of stuff, and it was because of that extreme overextension, that extreme panic. That creates a great opportunity to dip buy. So we really are just stalling out right here. I'm going to give it a little more time. We did just start a new 15-minute candle not too long ago, but I'm not overly committed to this trade. I'm okay walking away with minus $100, $150, even minus $300. That's fine. I don't need the win, but I'm willing to try it for the downside. I do think it's fair. We did have this little box that we broke out of. Hopefully this is a retest of it now to the downside. You could do a lot for trading with just understanding market structure, swing points, swing lows, swing highs, and how are they relating? Are we stair stepping up? Are we stair stepping down? And when does it make sense to fade what has been happening? Like if we're stair stepping down, should I try to buy right here? Or should I assume that we might just drift a little lower? I used to think strategy mattered so much when I first got into trading to the point where I'd be like, oh, let me have my stop right here so I could have a 12R. And I take 5 stops, and then I finally get it, and it's like break even. You're way better off giving yourself a positive expected outcome, meaning a stop that's far away and a target that's like relatively easy in a direction that you think it's going. That's like if you're betting on a sports team, right? What do you think? There's a team that has a slight edge over another. You're not going to bet on the exact score, and all these different little tangential bets. You want something that's pretty obvious. That's how trading should be. I would like to see it break these lows really soon. Right, yeah. The score pays 50 to 1, and that comes from skill. So what you're describing is like, why wouldn't you bet on the score? If you have a good ability to read a game or read a team or understand it, you're a skilled better at that point, or trader, if you will, if we're continuing the metaphor. When you get better, you can tighten the risk. However, when you're starting, broad strokes are way easier. With a thin market, broad strokes are way easier. If I'm pretty sure that it will go a direction, does it really matter if my stop's a little bit further away? It doesn't make too much of a difference. But what does is if you actually take 2 or 3 stops, because then you're down X amount, like $300, $500, whatever the number is. That's what makes it really hard to come back. It's those paper cuts. That's something that, like, if I look back, I think I could have saved so much time by just not taking so many consecutive small losses. Where am I from? I'm from SoCal, Southern California. Nice. So we're seeing some displacement, getting a little bit of a retrace back into here. If we could get one more push lower, we'll look to trail this a little bit. Yeah, you really could. I could kind of bring it to like right there or whatever. Skill comes with time, So if you're able to bet on the exact details of something, that's like saying, I know it's going to go down right now and not go to right here, You don't always know that with Asia. Like not every trade needs to be that precise. It's almost better to give it a couple chances to potentially try to fake you out before you get stopped than just have like the tightest stop possible. And that's not me saying that you can't take high risk reward trades, because I've taken a lot. Like I've had some risk reward. I do the math after. I'm like, that didn't even make sense that it was that much. but that's not ever the goal. That's never my goal off the bat. With this trade, could I potentially reach for more? Sure, but I get faked out a lot with Asia when I go for the full target. Yeah, let's get it. Let's get it. Not gonna lie, steak is yeah, ribeyes are a consistent rotation around here. So we'll be green on this trade. I just need to break the lows. Hopefully you get the $200 day, and then we wrap it up. If I hit the $200 here or 300 or whatever the number is for the day, I'll just lock the account and then I'll trade the top one account for tomorrow's New York session. You would think that this is pretty much a guarantee, but it could easily kind of pull back on me and stop me out. However, I think I want it to go lower now. Yeah. I don't think I want it to dig back up to here. I could maybe give it a couple dollars, but let's just get it, Hopefully these lower time frame charts are giving you guys a good visual because you see the lower highs here. That's like all you need to look at. Don't look at the candles, the gaps. You could just see that this market structure has been bearish and we have this now break under this structure to hopefully continue for one last displacement. Hopefully. Do you trade Asia? Well, for me, this is Asia right now, technically. I mean, it's the New Day Open. Asia opens officially in like an hour, I believe. But yeah, to me, this is like Asia. It's close enough. No, do I only trade it? No, I don't. I trade New York primarily. I just wanted to do a little impromptu stream, see what everybody's about, see what everyone likes. But yeah, most of the time I'm trading New York for sure. How long have I been trading? At this point, it feels like 5 years almost. Gotta be. Like, yeah, at least. And how long did it take? Probably too long. I feel like I figured stuff out like in my first year and a half, but then I just kept making the same emotional mistakes for like months and months and months and to years after that. And it's like, where you build up some consistency, you have a big month, and then you end up walking it back and you're just like, why am I doing this? So how long will it take you? Really depends on like 3 factors. Number one, how much raw time do you have to learn? If you're working a job that's very intensive, it's going to be hard. Number 2, your capacity to learn. So for me, I've always done well with school. So like learning things is easier for me. But again, I didn't struggle with that. I struggled with like being a composed person as a trader. I would just get like frustrated and like try stuff over and over or whatever. And you just create so much drawdown doing that it takes just longer to work out of. So how long it takes for me is like, it's completely different for you because you might be a super level-headed person and then it's going to be easy. You have a way easier time than I did. I have students that I work with and I don't do too much of it anymore. I just don't really want to, but people that I know that want to learn, I'll teach them. And they'll be like, oh yeah, I just take one trade and win or lose, I'm fine. And I think back to when I started, I'm like, I could not do that. I'd be there trading all day. Do I trade minis or micros? It depends. I mean, right now this is one mini, right? 10 micros. But I mean, it's a 150K account, so I'll do like maybe 2 NQ on here, 3 ES or something. I don't know. I've definitely there's trades where I've taken that I've traded like 4 or 5 NQs, but I'll pyramid into it. So I guess it really depends. This is supposed to be like low stress trading. I'm not trying to like get all worked up and just like, have to like calm down. I'm just kind of just shooting the shit, trading real light. So for me after this, it's like I gotta go chill, enjoy the rest of my afternoon, go to bed later. But there's definitely been times, especially right when Trump was first getting in, where I'm like trading all through Asia, you know, leaning 30, 40 micros at a time. And it just, it really, really, really drains you. So I'm a big fan of doing less, you know, like who wouldn't want to just kind of mess around on the keyboard, make $200, you know? I don't need to make $10,000 today. The structure is like all right at best. So if I could do a little bit of trading, a little bit of kind of just messing around, make some money, then cool. But we do need this to start working. That would be really nice. I want to reduce the stop, but yeah, I think we have to. So here's my plan. On a break of structure to the downside, I want to get my trail to surpass my loss. I want to erase that loss, but only on a break of structure because I want it to start to run towards target. And then we're green on the day no matter what. Let's see. So 130. Okay, so now we're officially green on the day. Now our goal is to let it run to hit the $200 day so that we have one more day closer to the 30 for top step. I just really hope we don't get joked out of the trade. Let's see. Trying to be generous. So I don't want to just get wicked out. NQ has a real bad habit of kind of coloring back just to make sure it gets anybody who rushes it. So I'm always a little bit lenient with giving back some trail. Okay, on this break of structure, we'll go back to what I was saying. So yeah, with Asia, it's not something you need to trade. However, I know a lot of people have work constraints. It's a good opportunity where you can trade it. It's tradable. I've made really good money in Asia. But also, if you do too much, you can lose a lot of money, which I've also done. So it's finding that balance. Looser targets, or like easier targets, looser stops, very low stress trading. It's a good supplement. It's like listening to music. There's times where you want to listen to it loud, times where you kind of want to just wind down, listen to a simple song, some peaceful music. And yeah, now we're trailed. So I'm down $14 on the day. A win and a loss. I'm gonna leave it there. Yeah. Thanks for hanging out, guys. Appreciate all the comments, all the questions. Hopefully, you guys saw some stuff. Pretty much all we had right here was a consistent downtrend where we were able to, you know, get a decent trade, manage it effectively, and we'll do the little executions right here so you guys can see. You have the, you know, the long that I tried, and then it got stopped right here at the swing low. Then we flipped short on the order block right here. Let's see, right here. This was like my entry. My stop was like up here, and then it just kind of downtrends. And I just kind of got shot out on the start of the new hour, pretty much, like right ahead of it. So I'm pretty sure that's it for me. Look at it real quick, but yeah, hopefully you guys learned something. I'm gonna give it like 3 more minutes. I want to see how the new hour opens. If there's anything abundantly clear, we'll give it a third and final shot, but I'm not counting on it. I do want to give it the hour though. One big tip for Asia: start of every hour. You know, people call it whatever they call macros, this or that. I don't care. The start of every hour, I notice there's a pretty distinct shift or just something that'll happen. Like you see that candle's already like kind of twitching all crazy. Yeah, look at that. It's a consistent downtrend. So we almost got it. Like we were really close. We were almost at our target. We're real close to it. VWAP got dragged down a good amount. So this could be a scenario where it just pushes back up to VWAP. So like, what criteria do I have? I don't really have much. You have your inversion right here on a 30-second. You could potentially look to target VWAP with. That could work. Stop at the low. It's kind of tight. markets get a little slow when higher time frames are consolidating. So if you really look at where we're at, it's not hard to imagine that this might be tricky. We're in the same body for the last 3 days. Some wicks to the upside, manipulation, wicks to the downside, manipulation. So when the bulk of the volume's happening right here, tricky stuff. But nevertheless, keep an eye on it for a couple more minutes and then go enjoy the rest of our day. So yeah, as it stands, this in this gap yet? Nope. We did actually hit the bottom of that fair value gap though that we were talking about earlier. So from stream the beginning, I said this was my downside target. If I took profit there, it probably would have been better, but we were pretty close to it anyways. So I hit this downside target, and then I had one right here. My limit was set right here. So interesting. So an hour of downtrending candles. That's a good time to short. You know, when you see all these candles going lower and closing lower, it means you can be bearish. Like you could be short in it as long as you don't trail, because the other kind of like wiki, they overlap a bunch. That's you getting stopped out if you trail too tight. Which again might be what happened to us. We got wicked out like in right here. And then if it continues lower, then we got stopped early. Yes, looking about the same. So just a nice little slow stream. Appreciate you guys hanging out. I'm gonna give it till like 7:07 Eastern, and then probably hop out of here. 100 tick. So my main concern at this point is twofold. So we have two things that my eye is drawn towards. We have VWAP, which it's been kind of maintaining its angle. We could potentially higher low here to target VWAP, or we're going to do one last leg lower down to here. So that's what I'm really watching for. If this can convince me right here that we can target VWAP, then I might do it. And that'll be it. Man, that's like nothing. It's at 230. Guess we had to overshoot VWAP. So last trade right here, put it in the books. Last trade. So it'll be my third of 5 total available trades. I like this higher low formation, essentially this little head and shoulders, right? That's what I'm seeing. It reacted to my downside area of interest. And I guess I'll put it right there as my stop. It's reacting now to that quarter mark from the 15 minutes. So we have this level right here at VWAP. And we have, should be a pretty clear shot to run on a lot of that downtrend we just did. It's not uncommon for Asia to want to undo what it just did for the last hour. So, yeah, I like the idea. I like the structure. To me, this is an order block. It's also, again, that breaker structure, that head and shoulders. So I can see it working. But again, if this stops me off for 125 bucks, pretty much just be at the same spot we were like a little bit ago. So last trade, then we'll lock it out on stream, hop off, and then go enjoy our day. But yeah, any questions you guys have, feel free to keep firing away. To me, this is just, if I'm not streaming and I'm taking a trade like this, I'm normally just kind of leaving it. Like I'll just leave the computer and go do something else, set alerts, and then I'll check on it from there. So we know the level is going to go ahead and take those off. Yeah, essentially back to that consolidation. Let's look at the 1 minute. 1 minute fair value gap. This could get inverted right here, that gap, but I like the idea of it holding for support. So let's see what we got. What do most of you guys trade? You trade forex, you trade futures, stocks, prop firms. What's your go-to? What are you liking right now? Crypto's been strong. I'm loving it. But for day-to-day stuff, futures is pretty easy for me. Yeah, I want to see this prove itself above 44, especially on the tick chart. I want to see it break that swing high and really start to hold there. Print a couple bars on the tick chart. That'd be nice. Otherwise, I can see this as it potentially rounding out. So those are my two thoughts. Futures, awesome. How long you been trading futures? Yeah, nice distinction between the tick chart and the 1 minute chart right here. The tick chart, it's really showing you that order flow, where transactions are actually happening versus just being time. Because you see that actual like flag, that little flag formation. 2 years, awesome. Honestly, I feel like the 2 year mark was probably the most nostalgic for me when I look back at it. Just because it's like you're starting to get there, but it's still hard. But like those are the times you just remember, you're like, man, like that was fun. Like I was really learning something. You'd be like, I didn't even it was at that time too where you feel like you're like, I don't know if I'm gonna figure this out. Like I look back at that, I'm like, nah, that was fun. The not knowing. Because once you do this for a long enough time, it becomes extremely repetitive and boring. And that's like the main root of most people's losses after a while. You get bored. So you do dumb stuff or you try hard or you try to get greedy and learn new stuff and optimize something that works. So I really like that 2 year mark. It was fun. Hmm. Alrighty. So we see a break above that swing high like we wanted on the tick chart. And now we're holding above, starting to wick a little bit, hopefully. I wish they give me a tick count because I get a timer for obviously my candle close, but I don't get a tick timer. How many ticks are left? Just figure that out, actually. All right, now I got it. So on the bottom, the volume count will tell me how many ticks we have done per candle. So higher low so far, right? Higher low. This one could potentially hold as a higher low. If it breaks the swing point, I'm a little skeptical. Maybe it's just a liquidity sweep right here to continue that set downtrend that we were starting to target. It's like we had a little bit of displacement, but really not that much. ES looks pretty bearish. Yeah, this is probably gonna stop me right here. Shit. Clicking all the wrong buttons here. I'm gonna put this right here at the low just in case I'm not gonna get wicked out. But yeah, this is potentially looking like a resume of the trend, so might just be walking away with the L. I just don't want to be too greedy with the stop, just in case this is just bottoming out and taking a minute. That's typical of Asia. What we've been really trying to do is just that 1-to-1 right here. So I need to give it the low. I can't have it in here and just get wicked. I need to give it room. I really do want to get one of those just nice moves that really shows you guys why I even bother with Asia, because you'll get them where it's just real slow market. You get the structure you want to get in on, and then it just gives you a gift. Like it really does. It'll just like lob it up there. That's a beauty of lower liquidity markets. They can move really fast. That's why we like crypto. So when people say Asia is all bad because it's low volume or low liquidity, it's partly true, partly not. So a break of those local highs to the left on the tick chart, that recent swing high, that really will be a good indication for our trade. You always want to be validating your thesis based on developments in market structure. So this right here still formed a higher low, which is why I'm okay with it. It didn't sweep and close under here, so it's not signifying a market structure shift. It's still predominantly an uptrend for now. Once we break here, it's further confirming that trend to allow for me to want to see a higher low and then up. So if this wins, we'll be up 200 on the day flat. And if it loses, we'll be down 200 on the day flat. This will be the third and final trade for the day. Just kind of walking you guys through my process. And mind you, $200 is 20% of my personal daily loss on this XFA. But it's the same thing on my top one accounts as well. I just use same thing for the 150Ks. Not my favorite looking 1 minute tick chart. Needs to step it up a little bit. Yeah, see how it's closing weaker right here. Not enjoying that, but we'll give it time. It's gonna need to kind of consolidate out for a bit and then rally. Still in a good location. Still in a good location. So that right there would start to signify a shift in structure if it closes below that low. The swing low to the left. I feel like with trading, the spot you want to get to is just not caring about the outcome, but just wanting the outcome to kind of happen so you can go on with your day. You don't want to build the habit of needing to be right or needing to make money. It's like you'll have days where it's easier, you'll have days where it's harder, or months rather. Like there'll be months where it's super easy to read, and then there'll be times where you're like, I don't even know what I'm doing. So I'm never in the mindset of like I need to make money, but rather I kind of want this to be like, wrap it up so I can go on with my day. A little higher low zone. That's the idea. I can hold. Pull the 5 minute on this chart real quick. 5 minute and it's not really giving us too much. 15, nothing. 15 could be a joke. 1 minute's all right. Check the 30-second. Yeah, the 30 seconds kind of just ranging. So this tells me I have to wait and see, right? When it's starting to go sideways, I have to wait and see. I don't have a discernible, I cannot make out which direction I think it's more likely to go until it does it. So my stop has to stay here and my target obviously won't get hit yet. If we can break above these swing highs, break and retest, cool. Then I could potentially trail it to right here. Another thing you could do with the very low time frames, if you just want to see swing highs and swing lows, you could do like a 15-second with a line chart, and you can kind of see what price is doing in a broad sense. Like you see the downtrend, you see some turmoil, volatility right here, where it's trying to higher low, but it might not. It might just roll over and stop me out. But that's like the overall depiction of what's going on. So that's a pretty useful tool as well, especially for scalping. Asia's a scalp session. It's not a swing trade session, really. Most of the time, it wants to go down and then up and then down and then up. Yeah, when I see this right here, not loving that action. Zoom this in. I don't love that. Yeah, see how it's starting to curl right here? And then you have these equal lows. That's like it's potentially going to start to draw there and then push through. So that's where it gets tricky in these consolidations. But this is an instance of where I'm starting to get a better idea that it's more likely to potentially run for my stop, in my opinion, than it is to continue higher, because you're seeing it tighten at the bottom of that consolidation. So I'm always trying to evaluate whether it's confirming or resisting my trade idea. Doesn't mean I have to do anything. It's just I'm framing expectations. So I'm not like, oh no, how did that happen? You can see it happen. You know how it happened. $7.18. Yeah, it's getting towards the end of the session for me. So hopefully it moves quick. We'll see. We're just dealing with these lows right here. If it pushes through, cool, we're out. If we can hold right here, then we got that reversal we're looking for now. So today we tried one long early. We tried one short. We made money, made back most of the loss. And then right now we're going for the $200 win or $200 loss on the day. So pretty simple session, 3 trades, pretty stress-free, all based on the same thesis of just how Asia's moving. We'll kind of zig and zag, align with price action. We tried aligning right here with this little break of this swing high, and it's just kind of drifting lower on me. So sometimes that happens, sometimes it works. It's called an edge. Yeah, we're not really seeing any volume that's showing interest in holding it higher. It seems pretty stagnant. We're holding near these lows, but it's like it seems like it wants to roll. So yeah, until I see otherwise, I'm going to assume it's going to just be a couple minutes. Maybe on a new 5-minute candle. You know, that's kind of a common time. Yeah, just consolidating right here. It didn't really give us the shift that we needed. It's all good. It's either that or just that. So it's like, what can you do in these situations? Well, I mean, you absolutely can cut the trade. I feel pretty inclined to cut the trade, but I'm just going to leave it. But that's something you should probably, if you like, want to be more precise with your trading, you can absolutely look to cut trades when they invalidate. But, I tend to just leave the trade so I don't have to think about getting in, getting out. It's just win or lose, Because if I cut the trade on discretion, maybe I want to get back in on discretion. It's like, I don't want to go back and forth. I'd rather just take 3 trades total and lose on 2 of them than have to do all kinds of mental gymnastics. So we're almost there, almost at the stop, guys. Thanks for hanging in there. Just a quick little stream. Yeah, it's just showing no bid. That's really what you're seeing right here. You're starting to see Potentially some bearish displacement right here, a little gap that's filling to then reject, but it's still to be decided. I'm pretty sure it's going to stop me, but it's not a certainty just yet. Say like 70% sure it's going to stop me, but I could be wrong. So yeah, now you have this little bit of a break, and then now potentially reject, or it's just going to sweep it. That's the game. Is it a break or is it a sweep? Find out next week. Yeah, I agree. I do not love the displacement lower. I agree. Whenever it starts to like drop on your head, I'm not a fan of it. I'm really not. In the sense of like it's really hard for the trade to sometimes recover from. But in terms of it stopping me out, I like taking faster losses. I'm gonna be honest. I don't like when it has to kind of be undecided for a while. So I'm seeing that as like the break, and then now like retesting to go lower. See what the 15-second looks like. Yeah, you see that lower high now? Right here. To me, this says 2 candles. Stop. Right? That's not the true view up, I don't think. Yeah. But hey, we do not give up around here. We just let the trade work, because it's not really a reflection of me. It's just a reflection of the set of data that I use and discern from as an edge. It's my ability to view the market based on certain methods. But this stops me out. Woohoo. I'd rather it happen right now than in 20 minutes. You know what I mean? You see, yeah, this is a little bit of a trend line. However you want to look at it, you have the head and shoulders now to the downside, right? Before we were looking at it to the upside. So the stop should be pretty soon. It's just a resume of trend. It never gave the shift higher. I would have assumed it would at least go for VWAP, but we're not seeing that. So it just shows that I was wrong in switching biases. I should have retained the short bias. I'm starting to think. Oh, good though. Should be close though. It should be close. I mean, sometimes it really does just like not give you the stop just yet. We should be close. Yeah, look at the tick chart. Those candles are printing quicker, so it's going to break to the downside, I think. Some point. Yeah, it should stop me out right now. I think no matter how you look at it, we're just starting to see more activity, especially on the tick chart. I feel like it's starting to speed up. So a little bit of a fake out before it rolls. We'll see. But what do you know when you trade? You know your invalidation point, and you know where you want to exit the trade for profit. How it happens is really just you approximate how it might happen. You might have a bias or opinion, but literally anything could happen. It could overshoot this by 1 tick, still work. It could undercut it by 1 tick or point, still work. It could go sideways here for another hour. So goal is for this to start moving. win or lose, so that way we can kind of wrap it up. But yeah, this is a good example of just seeing how price develops, letting the market work for you. Especially coming from options. Options, you have to be right in a certain amount of time. Futures, you just let it work. There's people who hold futures contracts for weeks. Hopefully this is going to be the roll. But it does look like, I mean, if it wants to shift above here, then maybe we have one last leg, but let's see it. Just down right there. So we have 3 minutes until the start of the new 30-minute candle, which can serve as an introduction for volatility. Every bigger candle tends to do that. 15-minute, 30-minute, 60-minute. So I always say if you could just hold out for that next rotation of the candle, you might get the volatility you need for the push.
How you doing? What's up, dude?
I used to think that if a trade didn't move in the next couple candles, that it's a bad trade, but it's like if you have a very rigid definition of what's allowed, like there's a lot of room for you to be wrong. If I need this exact candle to be the lowest, then I could be wrong. But if I'm like, yeah, as long as it doesn't go down here, it kind of moves sideways. It gives me more room to be right. All right, a minute and a half, just about 90 seconds till the next 30-minute candle. Just give you guys a reference of what we're looking at on the 30-minute. See how we're starting to form that inside bar? And we have that fair value gap above. We could then start to see this hold and then rotate into here. If it doesn't want to stop me out before that, that new candle could potentially just dip and then go. If every candle tends to have a wick, then expect this to open, dip, push. Okay, one more minute. 30-minute candle. Let's see. It looks like it wants to tighten, but again, these are relatively equal lows right here. It could get ran and stop me. No big deal. It's like the only thing I would say is if a trade's going to stop me out, I mean, you'd want to see it happen right here. It's like the longer it builds, the more likely that actually is some sort of meaningful reversal happening. Reversals will either be quick or they'll take time and actually build some structure to then push. It really depends. In the zone we're in, it's not terribly strong. So, we're really just in this previous little swing low pocket back here. That's about it. We also have that 15-minute fair value gap I mentioned earlier. But let's give it a glance. New 30-minute candle. So either the stop pretty soon or we start to see that market structure shift. Yeah, see, the 1 minute's not giving really anything. It goes up a little, then it just kind of rounds out. So that's what makes me think we're going to just continue the downtrend, which is fine. These little pops, though, that's what gives us the thought that it could hold because we're seeing it be resistant. And we know that lately, look at the higher time frames, dips get bought up. So, but we've been expecting the stop to happen. So if it happens soon, then nice. But either way, it's just, At this point, we've been in this trade for like 30 minutes, at least. At least, yeah. This thing's probably going to go real quick. Should be this next candle, I think. Should be, right? I think so. I don't see why I would need to take longer to stop me. Yeah, it's like right here. I don't know if I should give it like the one more tick or whatever. Maybe like one more, like just so it can have that room. But either way, it's the same thing. It's just a different price. Yeah, this should stop me out. Okay, now we're done for the day. Down $200 is what it is. You know, tried out some ideas. We had one winning short, and then yeah, that was it. We had one winning short, and then we lost twice on the long. So I'm gonna wrap it up there. Call it a day. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you guys like this type of thing, yeah, let me know. We'll make it a more regular thing. But until next time, take care. Look to do some New York streams pretty soon. So keep an eye out for that. I'll definitely post about it pretty soon. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Take care.